Hello everyone, Rob here with PreCodeCamp, and we're going to go through all of the steps that are in the Learn HTML forms by building a registration form for FreeCodeCamp. Now, if this video happens to help you out, again, everything is chaptered. Make sure you give me as well as comment down below what step that you actually got stuck on. That really helps us understand where do we need to build out future things. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's see where we're at here. Now, if we are looking at the courses that we've done before, we do have videos on each one of these where we did the building the cat photo app. We also did building the cafe menu and then the CSS markers. We all have those as part of our channel. So make sure you check those out as well if you are getting stuck with anything. So in here it says that you're able to use HTML forms to collect information on people, visit web pages, and so on. So in this course, we're going to be learning HTML forms to help build a sign-up page. You'll learn how to control those types of data of what people can actually type in their form, and some new CSS tools for styling your page. So cool. Yeah, forms are really big about collecting data, editing data, sending emails. We've seen all these types of forms already in our natural daily exposure to the web, right? And so it looks like on here, we're going to be building a sign-up page. So let's go ahead and dive right into this. This is going to be step number 1. All right, so if this is one of your first time watching our videos, what we try to do is we try to go through all of the steps here, and we may explain things a little more than what they're giving you details about. And so we may have a little side conversation talking about a certain topic, but that's why these videos are chaptered out here for you for your ease of browsing. So anyways, we got this nice little preview of what we're going to be building out here. And really a form is all about wrapping everything in a form element tag. And then you're going to be adding labels like you see right here. This would be considered a label. And then this is an input field. And there's lots of attributes that you can put onto input fields. You can tell it what type of input field you want, because there's a difference between a text field and a password field, because we could totally type in here anything, but whenever we come to a password field, it's the same input field, but we said, hey, we want a password to go in here. And when you start typing, the little dots up here. And just looking through this form here, real simple form, horizontal rules, things that we may have seen before, a file drop down where you can upload a file. And then it looks like we have a number field here, a drop down with some select options. And then this down here is a text area, and depending upon the browser, allows you to expand this as well. So anyways, looks like a nice little form. Hopefully we'll learn some things through this. Like I said, I'm going through this the first time as well. And let's go ahead and get this party started. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and let's take a look at the first step. Right, so this is going to be step number 1 in FreeCodeCamp's HTML forms, where we're building a registration form. And again, in order for us to have an HTML document, it's walking us through the steps. If you watched the previous videos on how to create your own HTML document from scratch, and that's all it's doing in this step here. So step number 1, it says go ahead and add your doc type. Make sure it says HTML in there. So exclamation doc type, and then HTML. And then again, this just tells the browser, hey, anything that's below this, treat it as an HTML document. So let's go ahead and check our work here. And there we go. Let's move on to the next step. Step number 2 is, again, pretty standard with these FreeCodeCamp lessons. We're just building something out here as far as letting the document know, hey, anything between these tags, now treat it as HTML document with the English or the language attribute is going to be English. This is just a real simple HTML with the lang. We're going to set that equal to en. And this has been a repetitive pattern FreeCodeCamp. Now, some tags need to have opening and closing tags, and this one is no different. This one needs opening and closing. If they don't, we call that a void element, and we learned that in the very first FreeCodeCamp lessons, which were the Building the Cat app. So let's go ahead and check our code. There we go. Let's move on to the next. Again, more busy work here with the HTML document. Again, we're not going to see anything inside of the browser, but for step number 3, it says put a head with opening and closing tags. And I'm always going to teach you guys that whenever you start typing out a tag, go ahead and close it out. And that way we don't forget, okay? And then it says on here, we want the body also. So let's go ahead and do a body. and that gets opening and closing tags as well. All right, that goes the head, body. There's no tail if you were thinking about that, but let's go ahead and check our code. There we go. Let's move on to the next round. Step number 4 in building a registration form for FreeCodeCamp. It says in here, inside of the head section, let's go ahead and add in a title element and a meta element inside of the head element to give yourself, or give the project, the title of registration form. So let's do that first. So we're going to do title, and again, opening and closing tags for this. And then what we're going to do next is, again, we're just focusing on the title. So in between the tags here, we want the title here to be called registration form. All right, so that's good. Next, it says add a meta tag. So we'll do meta. Meta is one of those tags that are considered void elements. You don't need to have a closing tag for it. And it says it wants to allow us to add the attribute here of the character set or char set. And we want to set that equal to UTF-8. And this is just the encoding that we're going to be utilizing. So that way it knows that, hey, we're using English, we're using the American keyboard here, and we're not on some sort of Chinese set, for example. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our code. There we go. And moving on to the next. Step number 5, building a registration form with FreeCodeCamp. It looks like it wants us to add a link element, okay? And again, this is going to be a void element as well, so link, and it wants us to link a style sheet. And so the way that we're going to do that is utilizing a hyperlink reference, and we want to set that to style.css. And in the FreeCodeCamp, we don't see the style page quite yet, and we're not going to see anything over in the preview window either, but just know that maybe in the next step here, we'll see a new tab appear, and that's going to be the style.css. Let's go ahead and check our work here. And oh, the one thing that I did forget before I hit the check mark here is this is going to be a style sheet. So we need to set up the relationship attribute, and we need to set that equal to style sheet, and that should complete this one here. There we go. Moving on to the next. Right, so step number 6 seems pretty easy here. We're going to go into the body. It says provide the heading context for the content by adding the H1 tag, and within it, go ahead and type out the registration form. So let's go into the body. We're going to do the H1 closing tags, and then I'm going to worry about what goes inside. So inside the H1, we're going to go ahead and type in registration form. All right, let's go ahead and check our code. Notice that we do get to see a preview of this part here, and we're going to get the congratulations. So again, anything that's inside the body, we will see in the preview over there on the right-hand side. Okay, moving on to the next. Step number 7 in building a registration form for FreeCodeCamp. It says that below the heading, let's go ahead and add the following text to the bottom of our header. And this will help encourage users to go ahead and fill out the form. So I'm going to go ahead and it says paragraph tag or paragraph element. And so I'm going to put the paragraph element in there. And then it says that it would like us to utilize this. Now, keep in mind that this goes all the way to the right if we're going to be utilizing it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that and paste it in there. There we go. Let's go and check our code. Congratulations. Let's go on to the next step. All right, step number 8 in building a registration form. It says, let's go ahead and create the height, and we're going to go ahead and set that to 100 VH as far as the body goes. Now, I will tell you this, that there's multiple ways to do the view height. I feel like with this lesson was created that the new height measurements weren't out quite yet or widely accepted by browsers, but there is something out there called SVH, DVH. What those are compared to this view height is it prepares us for the mobile version, because if you ever take a look at your phone in the mobile version, usually there is like a little search icon at the bottom or the top, depending upon your phone browser, that DVH would take into consideration. VH stands for the viewport height, and this is going to be working for our desktop computer, and it will be based upon how big or small your browser height is. Same thing for the width, we have 100%, but the viewport height is determined by your browser here. Anyways, it says on here, let's go ahead and do the body. So we're going to do the body, and in here, we want to do the width. We want that to be 100%, And then we also want the height to be 100 viewport height. Remember, semicolons go at the end of each one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and check our code. Congratulations. We're moving on to the next. Step number 9 tells us to get rid of the horizontal scroll bar that we see down here at the bottom. And we can do that by applying margin 0. And this will put a 0 margin on all 4 sides of the web page. So the top, the bottom, the left, and right will all get 0. So let's go ahead and do that. Margin 0. And there we go. We saw a little shift in the registration form to the left. I don't know if you saw that. There it is. And the scroll bar at the bottom is now gone. All right, let's go ahead and check our work. There we go. Moving on to the next. All right, step number 10 with the FreeCodeCamp building a registration form. It says in here, that looks better now. Let's go ahead and change the background to make it a little easier on the eyes. And so it does give us a background color of this. And if we remember from the previous lessons, this is a hex color comprised of the red, green, blue type of formula here. So we're going to go up to the background color and let's go ahead and change that to the following. So that looks perfect, but now the text doesn't look that great. And it says to change the text color, utilize the color property and change it to this hex code. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to copy it and then I'm going to come down here and do color and then paste that hex code on here. And now we get the nice off-white color on the darker background. So let's go ahead and check our code, see if that's correct. There we go. Moving on to the next lesson. So step number 11 here. This is going to be our first time out of all of the tutorials that we've gone through with FreeCodeCamp is the form element and what that looks like and what that does for us. And so we're going to do the following. It says on here, go ahead and after the P tag, go ahead and insert a form element. Okay, so again, I'm just going to do form and then I'm going to close it off with the closing tag. Now, inside of the first form element here, the opening tag, it says that we need to provide it with an action. So we're going to do action, and then we're going to set that equal to, and then this URL that we have here. So anytime we're adding an attribute and we're adding something here that looks like written words, like a string maybe, is we're going to put it in the double quotes. Okay, so we're going to make sure that there's no spaces in here. And we're going to get rid of this extra period because I don't need that part when I copied it over. So every form typically gets an action. It's like, where do you want this data to be sent after you have filled it out? So that's all that the action is there for. So let's go ahead and check our code. Congratulations. We're moving on to the next. So step number 12 with the FreeCodeCamp building a registration form. It says on here that the method attribute specifies how we want to send the data to the URL specified in the action. So whenever we have information to be filled out on the form, it's going to be collected in the format of some data. And this data is going to be sent to this URL that we see right here. And usually when you're sending a form, you can either use a get method for the get request, or in this one here, we want it to be a post request. So that way we're adding some data through the post method. So we're going to come over here, type the word method, and then we're going to set that equal to post. And that's really all it's wanting here. And let's go ahead and check our code. And congratulations, we're moving on to the next. All right, so we're on step number 13 here. It says we need to add 3 distinct sections, and we're going to separate them in the form of utilizing field sets. Now, field sets, really, you're not going to see anything there. What a field set will do, it allows us to group like things of a form. And what do I mean by that? Maybe we want to have contact information, and then we want billing information, and things like that. That's what we're trying to do. So visually, when we look at the code, it separates it. SEO-wise, it separates it. And then finally, when we're utilizing screen readers, we're taking care of the folks that are utilizing screen readers for it as well. So anyways, let's just go ahead, knock this part out here. And what we're looking to do is just add field set, and then we're going to open and close these, okay? And then it says that it wants 3 of these here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do another one and then one more. And then that should be good enough for now. Let's go ahead and check our code, and congratulations. Let's move on to the next. So we're on step number 14, building a registration form in here. It says the first field set will hold things such as the name, email, password fields.
So go ahead and start by adding, and this is the keyword that you may miss, which says 4 label elements in the first field set. And again, I was going with, you maybe needed 3 with name, email, password, but they're going to do first name, last name, email, and password, I believe. So we're just going to go ahead and put open and close labels in here. Later on in the other steps, they're going to tell us what to actually put in there. So let's go ahead and close that off. And then we just need 4 of these. And there we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and check the code. There we go. Moving on to the next. All right, step number 15 in building a registration form for FreeCodeCamp. It says on here, add the following text to the labels. So it's going to be enter your first name. And this is where we're going to essentially take each one of these things here, and we want to stick it in between the labels. So enter your first name, then we're going to enter the last name. We want to make sure that we have the semicolons in there as well. I believe we're going to be unit tested on it when we click on the submit button. But again, a little tedious task, but at least we're getting them in there. So this last one here, create a new password. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Let's check our code. And there we go. Now, one thing that I want you to notice with the labels, again, they are going to be considered inline elements for us to use, because eventually the next piece of this is to have maybe an input field, and not always are they going to stack on top of each other and so on, but usually you have a label next to an input field. So I think that's where we're going to be going next. Again, our form is not a form without it, as well as a submit button. So let's go ahead and keep on coding. All right, so we are in number 16 as far as the step goes with the building a registration form for FreeCodeCamp. And it talks about this new unit that we see here, which is REM. Now, we haven't talked about REM before, but it does stand for the root size for any kind of font size, for example. That's going to be its reference point for the root document. And the root document typically, unless you set it, is usually 16 pixels. And so when we're saying 0.5 REM, that's really saying half of 16 is 8 pixels. You'd get the same result. And so later on in your discovery and your development of HTML and your understanding of the CSS, you will find yourself, maybe why would we want to use the REM versus pixels? And it really comes down to when we adjust for sizes of tablets and mobile, that we can just simply change one value and it affects the entire document on smaller screen sizes. So anyways, it wants us to target the labels. So we're going to come over here, we're going to target the label, and we want to do display block. Now it says that by default, it's inline, which is why they're stacked up side by side right now. And when we do display block, they're going to be stacked on top of each other, taking up 100% width of that space. And so let's go ahead and do a display block. And once we get done with it, let me make sure I spell it right. You'll see that they are now stacked on top of each other, which is what we are wanting. And then it did say to give it a little bit of spacing, we can do the margin property. And remember, whenever we supply it with the very first value, and then we supply it with a secondary value, that applies to the top and bottom. So what I would expect to see once I do 0.5 REM, that it's going to put it all around. Okay, we don't want that. You see how it pushed the left side of the enter your first name, right? We don't want that. We only want it on the top and bottom. And so the way that we're going to do that here is it tells us, hey, for the right and left, let's go ahead and put a 0 in there. And so you saw how it jumped from where we're getting a margin to now we're not. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our answer, and congratulations, we're moving on to the next step. All right, we are on step number 17 of this registration form, and it says on here, nest an input element within each label. And it says also, make sure that you put a space after the colon. So we're going to come in here on that very first line, add a space, and then we're going to do input. And input is one of those where it is a void element, where we don't need to have a closing tag. Now I'm going to go ahead and highlight this, and I'm going to paste it on each one of these to make it a little easier. All right, let's go ahead and check our code. There we go. Congratulations. We're moving on to the next. Step number 18 in building a registration form for FreeCodeCamp. It says on here that For accessibility best practices, you want to make sure that you want to link the input elements to the labels, and we want to utilize the for attribute to be placed in the label. And when we do that, we also want to match up the IDs of each element. What it's asking us to do is come over here for each one of the label. We want to add a for attribute, and then this one's going to be first hyphen name. And we want to go ahead and do this for each individual one here. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and complete that. All right, they're all entered. Let's go ahead and check this out here. All right, so we got the labels done. Let's go ahead and do the input fields. The input fields is just, we need to have the ID here. ID equals, and then it's going to be first name. And again, we're going to repeat this pattern here for the following inputs. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and then we'll check it out. All right, so here's what that looks like. I just went ahead and added in all of the IDs to match what we have over here with the fors. All right, and so then all I'm going to go ahead and do is check the code, and let's see if we got it. There we go. Let's move on to the next. So step number 19, it says on here, specifying the type of the attribute of the input element. It's very important for the browser to know what kind of data that should be expected for this type. And it says, give the first two inputs that we see on here, give it the type of text, and give the third one an email. And then the next one is going to be a password. So visually, we will see different things with some of these. However, the text one, we really don't see anything with when we assign it as a text field. But the email, like when you click the submit button, it's going to check for the @ sign. It's going to check for that domain like .com, .edu when you submit a form, because like sometimes you can add some additional attributes on there that's going to help you notify your user right out of the box without doing any extra JavaScript or anything like that to say that, hey, that they got an error. And then the password one, you're going to see that we can type stuff in here. We can actually see it. It's going to turn that to bullet points instead to mask the characters. So really all it's asking for is the type in here. We're going to set that equal to text. And then the next few here, we're just going to type text for this. And then the input field for the email, it's going to be type email. And then this one here is going to be the type password. And so this is where you can go ahead and type in here. And funny thing with the password thing, and this happens a lot with myself as well as family members, they're like, oh, I forgot what password I typed in there. But sometimes the auto save kicks in for the password, and you're able to simply go into your dev tools and remove this little type property from password, and you'll be able to see it. But sometimes websites out there, they have that little eyeball over here that says show and hide this, and really it's just changing the type behind the scenes of what that input field actually is. So anyways, let's go ahead and check our code, make sure that it does work. Congratulations, we're moving on to the next. Right, we are on step number 20. This is in building a registration form for freeCodeCamp. And it looks like over here, what it's asking us to do, it says in here that the first input element with the type of submit is automatically going to submit to the nearest parent form. So to handle the form submission, let's go ahead and add a field set. After the last field set, go ahead and add an element called input. Make that type set to be submit and add the value to be submit as well. What it's saying is that if you were to place an input field with the type being submit, no matter where it's at on that form, it's going to find the nearest parent form and it's going to use it. So if we place one here, it's searching and it found one way up here, right? So that's the form. Not that I've ever seen a form within a form before, but that's what it's saying. So down here at the very bottom, we're going to create a brand new input field. And so we're going to do input. And then inside the input field, it wants us to have a type equaling to submit. So already freeCodeCamp has taught us about the text, the password, the email. Now it's the submit. And then we also can apply a value here. And it looks like by default that you do get the word submit. Whenever you use a value on the input, it will take that literally and apply it to this button. So if I were to type pool party, we will see a button with pool party in it. But in this case here, they want us to type the word submit, and we're going to go ahead and leave it at that. Let's go ahead and check our code. Scroll up here, check our code, and there we go. We're done with step number 20. All right, so that will end our video series of steps 1 through 20. If you want to watch the next set, make sure that you take a look at our follow along videos for this course. All right, so we'll see you in the next video.